The lights of Britain's Got Talent burned white and unforgiving, swallowing the small figure standing alone at the center of the stage. Millions saw a child smile, barefoot, fearless, moving with impossible power. What they did not see was the weight she carried into that moment. The silent years of sacrifice, the fragile body pushed beyond limits, the unspoken fears hiding behind discipline and grace. Binita Chetry did not arrive on that stage by accident. She arrived through pain, relentless repetition, and a childhood shaped more by struggle than applause. As the music began, her movements felt almost defiant, as if she were fighting gravity itself. Judges leaned forward. The audience held its breath. But beneath the standing ovation lived a deeper truth, one that the cameras never followed backstage, never asked about in interviews, never dared to explore. What happens to a child when the world suddenly expects greatness? What is the cost of being extraordinary too soon? And when the applause fades, who is left standing in the silence? This is the story Britain's Got Talent did not tell you. A story not just of talent, but of survival. The stage is too large for someone so small. The lights descend like judgment, hot and blinding, flattening the world into white glare. Binita Chetry stands alone at the center, barefoot against the polished floor, her chest rising slower than it should for a child her age. The crowd is loud, but the sound reaches her as a distant echo, as if heard through water. Somewhere beyond the cameras, beyond the judge's desk, millions wait to decide who she is allowed to become in the next few minutes. The music begins softly, almost deceptively gentle. Her body responds before fear can surface, muscle memory guiding her forward. Each movement is precise, controlled, sharpened by years of repetition. Strength ripples through limbs still growing, still fragile, and the audience leans in, sensing something rare. But what they applaud is only the surface. Inside her mind, there is no celebration. There is counting, timing, control. A relentless internal voice reminding her that hesitation is failure, that one mistake could collapse everything she has built. She does not dance to express joy. She dances to survive the moment. Her face remains composed, but her jaw tightens briefly, betraying the pressure beneath. The judges exchange looks of disbelief. Gasps ripple through the room as she launches into movements that seem impossible for her age. The camera cuts to the audience, tears forming, hands clasped. A child prodigy, they will call her. Fearless, powerful, a miracle. None of them ask why her movements carry such urgency, such intensity, as if time itself is chasing her. As the routine builds, the lighting darkens, shadows stretching across the stage. Her breath grows heavier. For a fraction of a second, imbalance threatens and almost fall invisible to most, but her body corrects instantly. That moment contains everything. The cost of never being allowed to slip, the terror of disappointing a world that has already decided she must be extraordinary. When the music ends, silence crashes down before the eruption. The crowd rises as one. Applause detonates, thunderous and consuming. Judges stand. Smiles break across faces. Somewhere, a dream is declared fulfilled. Binita bows, small and composed, absorbing praise that feels both overwhelming and strangely hollow. The spotlight follows her as she leaves the stage, but behind the curtain, the noise dulls. Her shoulders drop slightly, just enough to reveal exhaustion. There is no celebration in her eyes, only relief, because the performance is over, but the expectation is not. And as the echoes of applause fade into silence, a question hangs unanswered in the darkness. What kind of childhood creates a child who dances like she has no room left to fail? Long before the lights, before the applause, before the world learned her name, Binita Chetry's days began in quiet spaces shaped by limitation. The rooms were small, the floors unforgiving. There was little room for error in life or in movement. Comfort was never promised. It was earned through endurance. Her body learned discipline before it learned rest. Early mornings arrived without negotiation, muscles sore before they were fully awake. Training was not framed as ambition. It was routine, expectation, necessity. Every movement demanded repetition until pain blurred into background noise. Falling was allowed only if rising happened immediately afterward. Emotionally, childhood unfolded differently for her. While other children explored play, Binita memorized sequences, corrected posture, repeated drills until her limbs trembled. Smiles came easily, but they were trained too. Expressions shaped to mask strain, to reassure those watching that everything was fine. Inside, fear quietly took root. Fear of wasting opportunity. Fear of not being enough. Fear of letting sacrifice mean nothing. There were moments when exhaustion threatened to break through. Knees bruised, ankles aching, breath sharp in her chest. In those moments, she learned something dangerous and powerful, that pain could be ignored if purpose demanded it. Strength became identity, and weakness something to hide. The narration lingers on the silence of practice spaces, broken only by breath and movement. No cheering crowds, no validation, just the echo of effort against walls that offered no applause. Discipline shaped her body, but it also shaped her psychology, teaching her that love and recognition arrived only after perfection. Foreshadowing emerges subtly. Her movements grow sharper, stronger, but her stillness grows heavier. The more control she gains over her body, the less space she has to simply exist without performance. Childhood becomes something she watches from a distance, aware of it, but unable to step inside. The world would later praise her focus, her maturity, her intensity. Few would understand that these traits were not gifts freely chosen, but adaptations, responses to a life where standing still felt like falling behind. As the chapter closes, the camera lingers on a young girl practicing alone, repeating the same movement again and again as daylight fades. There is no applause waiting, only the quiet belief that stopping is not an option. And beneath that belief, an unspoken question forms. What happens when a child grows strong by never allowing herself to be small? Recognition arrives quickly, almost without warning. Doors open, attention sharpens. People begin to look at Binita not as a child, but as potential. Her name travels faster than she does, carried by whispers of talent and promise. With each new opportunity, the world grows larger and more distant. Training intensifies, expectations multiply. Praise surrounds her, yet connection thins. She is admired, filmed, discussed, but rarely known. Conversations revolve around performance, improvement, the next level. Silence fills the spaces where childhood friendships might have grown. Psychologically, loneliness settles in quietly. She learns that excellence creates separation, that being exceptional places her slightly outside every room she enters. Others watch her more than they speak to her. She becomes something to observe, not someone to reach. Fear sharpens with every success. Each performance carries the weight of maintaining momentum. Decline becomes the unspoken threat, hovering just beyond the spotlight. Rest feels dangerous. Slowing down feels like inviting replacement. The body adapts, but the mind absorbs pressure differently. Small aches linger longer. Fatigue deepens. Yet she pushes forward, driven by the belief that stopping means losing everything she has worked for. Foreshadowing hums beneath the surface. The rise is fast, almost too fast. There is little room to pause, to question, to breathe. The higher she climbs, the thinner the air becomes. The chapter closes with Binita alone after practice. Lights dimmed, mirrors reflecting not just her form but her isolation. Success surrounds her, yet she has never felt more solitary. And as the future accelerates toward her, one truth becomes unavoidable. The higher she rises, the fewer places remain to land safely. Fame is loud at first, then suddenly quiet. The world moves on with startling speed. Headlines fade. New faces replace old miracles. But expectation lingers, heavy and unmoving. For Binita, the silence after applause is not relief. It is disorientation. Without constant affirmation, identity begins to blur. Who is she when no one is watching? The stage once defined her boundaries. Now, without it, uncertainty fills the space. Fear creeps in, subtle but persistent. Fear of being forgotten. Fear of having peaked too early. fear that her worth exists only when witnessed. Psychological pressure deepens. Discipline hardens into obsession. Rest feels undeserved. Every missed practice carries guilt. Every pause feels like failure. The body demands recovery, but the mind refuses permission. Isolation grows sharper here. The noise is gone, replaced by internal echoes. Doubt speaks louder than applause ever did. She measures herself against her past, against expectations set when she was still a child. Foreshadowing darkens. Something is nearing a breaking point. Not dramatic, not public, but internal. The kind of fracture that forms slowly, silently, when resilience is stretched too thin for too long. The chapter ends suspended in uncertainty. The camera lingers on stillness, on a young woman shaped by extraordinary expectations, standing at the edge of herself. And the question remains unanswered. Will she be consumed by what the world demanded of her, or will she find a way to exist beyond it? Rebirth does not arrive with music or lights. It arrives quietly, through reflection, through moments of stillness once avoided. Binita begins to redefine strength, not as endless endurance, but as awareness. Healing is slow, uneven, and deeply personal. The narration softens here, focusing inward. She learns to separate who she is from what she produces. Purpose expands beyond validation. Movement becomes expression again, not proof. The pressure loosens, though its echoes remain. Legacy emerges not as fame, but as meaning. Her story reflects something larger. A caution, a mirror, a question posed to a world that celebrates brilliance in the young without protecting the cost. The final moments are reflective, unresolved in the most human way. She stands not as a prodigy, not as a spectacle, but as someone who survived expectation and chose wholeness. The screen fades to silence, leaving the audience with one final question. When the world applauds a child's strength, who is responsible for what it takes to build it?